Hello, fellow YouTubers out there. My name is Kevin Johnson. This is the first installment of the Capitalist Educator. I'm going to try and bring some news, information, and education to those of you who need it. Well, I kind of want to start this first video off with something everybody can understand and everybody is starting to talk about, and that's the minimum wage, McDonald's. All these people talking about the fast food franchises not paying enough and they should pay $15 an hour. So we did a little math here, and we're going to take this math. I'm going to put it out there, and if you don't like what you hear, challenge me. Come up with facts, because I did my research, and this is what I come up with. First of all, average McDonald's about 21 employees. 21 employees working, let's say, 20 hours a week, because well, everybody knows most of those McDonald's employees are part-time. That's going to make, including paying the employer share of the Social Security taxes and such, about $240,000 worth of annual cost for employees. Now I figured that at $10 an hour. Let's say, for instance, that we raise that to $15 an hour. What's going to happen? Well, that's about 50% more money, so you're going to have about 50% more costs, $360,000 a year. That's a cost difference of $120,000. Well, let's now look at the fact that the average McDonald's makes about $144,000 a year. That's up a good bit. I remember hearing maybe 6 or 8 years ago, I believe it was $75,000 a year. I'm taking that number from the average sales of the average McDonald's and the average profit from the average McDonald's. Actually, by doing a web search, I couldn't find that magic number like you used to be able to find the $75,000 number. So I had to extrapolate that from the information available. Well, let's see. The average franchisee has to have about $750,000 to open a McDonald's restaurant. That's a minimum. As McDonald's says on their site, if you have the availability for more funds, you are better prepared to open a restaurant. In other words, you'd have to be pretty strong to only open a restaurant with $750,000. You'd have to have a lot of experience in the business, and you would have to have a pretty good in. So, we've now raised the average cost of employees $120,000 for $144,000 of net profit, leaving $24,000 net profit to invest $750,000. I don't really think that's going to work very well. One downturn, and the business is, well, going broke, because $24,000 over an entire year with an average of $2.4 million of sales out of a store, you have a slow period, you're losing money. Number one, that's the average. You're going to have a lot of stores not making that average. You have some making more. So what's going to happen? 6 to 10% of those stores are going to shut down because they're still making that $70,000, $75,000 a year. Raise their operating costs $120,000 a year. They're going to continually lose money. They're not going to continue to pay for that. So the first thing that's going to happen is, well, 6 to 10% of those businesses are going to shut down. McDonald's is one of the most profitable. What do you think about all the Arby's and these Jack in the Boxes and lower rate, sorry, Jack in the Box and Arby's, but maybe I should have said lower volume retailers in fast food industry. They're not going to make it. So all those people, number one, that have jobs at those stores, well, they're not going to have jobs. So $10 an hour, or 60% of that on unemployment for, how many ever weeks their state gives. I think they'd rather have the job. Maybe I'm wrong. Now let's look at the second thing. If you're out there screaming for a $15 an hour minimum wage, you're probably also screaming to spend more money on everything. Education, more benefits, more this, more that. Well, I got news. You can't do that if you don't have a tax base. If you shut down these businesses, they're not paying taxes. What somewhat little bit of taxes that are paid from the employees, because they are part-time, they do pay some Social Security taxes. They pay FICA, they pay that. And the managers and the owners' taxes, the business taxes to the community. All those taxes go away. If you don't collect the taxes, you can't pay for this stuff. So you're defeating your own purposes here. So that's my rant and rave on the $15 an hour minimum wage. It doesn't work. I mean, just the math. You look at any business that's a small business. And that goes to a larger point, to which I'll come back to in another segment, that all these policies from the left only work to increase the capabilities of big business and hurt small business. If you want to go out there and start a small restaurant, maybe not even a franchised one, and you have to pay $15 an hour, just your first year you need an additional $120,000, and it gets worse from there. The increased regulations, everything that the left does seems to make it so that the small businessman can't compete in the marketplace. I mean, this is a prime example of that. If I've got to pay $15 an hour and I'm competing in a marketplace with McDonald's and Burger King and all these very large institutions, how am I going to do that? And, you know, I don't start the business, I don't make the jobs, you don't collect more tax money yet again. This happens over and over again with all the regulations that the left imposes. Every single thing, EPA regulations, all the new taxes, the Obamacare, everything that the left does makes it harder and harder and harder for the small businessman to compete. The big businesses have plenty of money to pay compliance officers, pay consultants to go in and research that they're following the laws, the money to actually cover them. Maybe not plenty, obviously, you know, since the downturn in the economy has shown a lot of business failures, but at least they're better equipped to handle it than the small businessman. So all this does is make it harder for that. So again, if you have any quarrels with what I'm saying, prove me wrong. Show me where a higher minimum wage doesn't make it harder to start a business. Show me where more regulation doesn't make it harder to do these things. And the big businesses, obviously, with more funding, more capital, and the economics of scale of multiple offices and smaller profits coming from those, at least funding the large corporation to pay that centralized compliance officer and centralized accounting and stuff to handle this. So challenge me on my McDonald's education I just gave, the minimum wage. Challenge me on that if you have something better. It's real nice to say, oh, well, the people need money. Well, for God's sakes, give it to them because they need it. Well, you've got to have more reason behind it. I mean, not reason for wanting to give it to them. Okay, sure, you're compassionate. But if it doesn't work out, they're not going to get anything out of it, you know, anyway. The jobs aren't going to be there. The taxes aren't going to be able to collect it to provide them the benefits you want to provide them. You know, all the failure of that is self-evident, but yet these people don't see any of it. So challenge me. More installments coming. And thank you very much for tuning in.